Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach. And I am here with, to my delight, with yet another high demand coach. And that's a new friend of mine. A mutual acquaintance put us together. But today I'm honored to have the presence of Mr. Marc A. Pitman himself. Marc is the founder of the Concord Leadership Group. He helps leaders lead their teams with more effectiveness and less stress, whether it's through one-on-one coaching of executives, conducting high engagement trainings, or growing leaders through his ICF accredited coach certification program. His clients grow in stability and effectiveness. I love that, both and. He is the author of The Surprising Gift of Doubt, amazing title, by the way, and that is the use certainty to become an exceptional leader you are meant to be. He's also author of Ask Without Fear, which has been translated amazingly to Dutch, Polish, Spanish, and Mandarin. I'm assuming you did all the translation work. Is that right?
All of it, all by myself. Duolingo.
No. Google Translate.
Yeah, right.
So he's here with us today. You guys are in for an absolute treat. I'm so glad that you're here, Marc. Thanks for joining us. I'd love to start off and just hear a little bit about your story. How did you get into coaching and why?
Well, you know how some people play doctor and lawyer or fireman when they're kids. I played coach. I just wanted to be a life coach. And no, I didn't. No, you knew that wasn't true. I was saying that to somebody just last week and they're like, you did? Not at all. My parents were into self-help and self-improvement. They found it when I was in my teenage years. And so they started assigning me homework. I had school homework, and then I also had Pitman family homework. So I had positive mental attitude books to read and motivational speakers to listen to. We had to read books and listen to tapes. It was tapes in the day. And then they kind of got into the swing of coaching. And I'm not sure who introduced them to it, but I know when my wife and I were engaged, they got us Zig Ziglar success coaches. Okay. They said, you don't just need the premarital counseling. You need 6 months of Zig Ziglar success coaching. So each of us had 6 months one-on-one. My wife kind of learned a bit like, what's this weird Pitman vocabulary? And I got to think about my life as a senior in college beyond the wedding day, like decades. What is it that I really want to be about? What do I want to how do I want to direct my life? And what do I want to be the cornerstones of it? Fell into work. Started doing admissions at a college and then went into development, found out I love asking people for money. It is so much fun to do. And in my professional work, it was the coaches, the people that life coaches for the most part at that point in the late 90s, that helped me be a better me. The consultants seem to have, I've met other consultants since then, and I had good consultants at the time, but their models seemed to be about holding on to the information and protecting me from it so that they could renew the contract, as opposed to helping me grow as an individual and make the connections on my own. So I found that as I grew in my own ability to be a better me, I was a much better fundraiser, much better manager, much better volunteer person, alumni director, dorm parent, whatever the different roles I was having. So in 2003, I had the opportunity to go to Franklin Covey, be certified as a coach, and hang out my shingle. And it's been over 20 years now about 20 years of doing that work, and various iterations, different, looking different ways at different times. But it's been, I love, in fact, having just started certifying coaches, it's a whole way of looking at life. Like, people are actually brilliant and they know a lot more than what they think they do. And so we get to hold the space for people to have that safe space of not having to, we're not going to hire you. We're not going to fire you. We get to draw out the brilliance. And there are times when you need a consultant. There are times when you need a trainer or a mentor, definitely times for therapy and counseling, all that. Those aren't coaching, but it's so cool all my training and speaking around the world is done from a coaching mindset of, my audience is totally brilliant. And they just need to connect some of the dots and or maybe look at something in a slightly different way or have a powerful question.
It's such a brilliant worldview, because I think a lot of times when people will kind of, and even saying it this way speaks to the mindset, they finally admit they need a coach. Like it's like, I've done everything else. I might as well try this coaching thing, right? It's like we've tried, plans A through Z, 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 A, C have been a total failure. Maybe I'll try a coach now. But the reality of it is, you don't have to wait to be a failure to be a coach, right? You don't have to go out and find some coach who's going to be this whiz bang, like we're going to give you all this kind of a thing. I loved the way that you said it, and I'd butcher it to try and repeat it, but the brilliance inside, right? If you're brilliant, you need a coach, right? It's not that if you failed, you need a coach. It's not remedial, and sometimes that's the case. But yeah, go.
And I have been hired that way. So one of my remedial people, the HR hired, when HR calls you, it's not going to be like the high achiever looking to be better. But that person is still at that place. That was over a decade ago and is now running the entire department, the large department in that organization. And to your point, I think a lot of us think that coaching is that remedial thing. It's that last ditch effort. But if we just shift the focus, and at the time of this recording, Serena Williams just had her last time at the Open for now. And there are athletes like of her caliber that have coaches for different aspects of their play, not just overall. So we know in the athletic world that there are specialized coaches for the super achievers. But somehow one of the problems I think I've seen in clients and in myself is that we feel like there must be a book. Not a book, but we must, if we don't get it, if we don't understand how to lead, it must be a problem with us, as opposed to, so reaching out for help is like a failure. We're not supposed to be reaching out for help. We were promoted to a position, so we should already have what it takes to do that position.
And I think that's particularly true from many of the people who would benefit from the coach the most, right? Yeah. Founders, entrepreneurs, business leaders, right? People who are in a position to have exponential impact based on their behaviors, actions, right? Mindsets. The more successful you've been in the past, the more you can benefit from a coach, I would argue.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think it's one of the hardest, though, is when you're that entrepreneur, you're holding together a team, or you're a solopreneur trying to, not trying, but actually effectively marketing it all. You forget that kind of shield you put up around yourself, or that image of who you are, can become a prison that traps you. The armor that protects you can also constrict your growth. And having a coach can help you to readjust the armor without feeling like the guy in the Wizard of Oz. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. You can still be the great and terrible and wonderful Oz and be even greater at that
and benefit from a coach. Yeah.
Right.
So I love this. And so coming from this point of kind of mining for brilliance, right? Of extracting it out and helping, reveal it to the world. What would you say some of the most important work that you find yourself doing, even on a daily basis with your clients?
I think part of it is unlearning what it brought them into leadership. So often as an employee, individual contributor, having solutions, doing work, getting tasks done is how we measure success and get promoted. Then there's a whole different mindset that has to happen when we're leading the work. Sometimes there's stuff we have to be doing, but we don't have to be doing all of it, because when we start doing it and we have a team, we become a micromanager because they're actually hired to do it. And we think we're being helpful because that's how we've been rewarded all the way through our career. But we're really telling our team, we don't trust you, or you don't have what it takes. And so that's, I think, one of the things I do is unlearning. The other thing is, so much of our I've got my master's in organizational leadership, and I'm a nerd, so I love studying. So much of our leadership structures, especially in the West and especially in the United States, are based on a white male being the leader with centuries of systems that are supporting that structure. So it's also unlearning the toxicity that's there for all genders and races, but to also really have the courage to piece together your own leadership style. And that feels incredibly risky, but the enthusiasm and effectiveness and energy that's released as people realize, I get to do that. Yeah, I get to do it. I get passionate about doing things this way. And so then as you know, the brilliance of coaching is that it's time release. It's not like you go to a seminar and you get fire hosed for 2.5 days, which can be very beneficial, but you get to beta test things and try it out and see how does it fit, and get to really put on your own leadership suit, as opposed to just buying something off the rack.
Yeah, that's so good. One of the questions that I've really been mulling over lately, because in our work, we do a lot with the different stages that organizations go through. In a similar way, we do a lot with the stages that leaders go through, right? And
Yes.
the big question, the big challenge that I think most leaders have is the accumulation of knowledge. What did you learn when you were first starting out, and is it still serving you today?
What a powerful question.
Because some of it is right, like some of those lessons are why you got to where you are, and they're equally valid today, but a lot of them aren't. Like you're saying, if you learned how to execute well and get stuff done, how is that serving you and your team today? And I don't, without a coach, it's very, very difficult to stop and ask that question.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to recognize the when of the equation, right? It's just an issue of like, well, if that worked, then it'll work, and I do more of it, it'll work more, and then rinse and repeat. We do the same thing, and so I love this idea that you're bringing of it, like what you did then and what you do now aren't necessarily the same thing.
Well,
What you
and you're
did to
saying
succeed,
that
yeah,
it's not just stages, it's also generations. So
yeah,
I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up in a time when the jobs were tight and the boomers were overpowering us population wise, and the millennials were coming in. And so we get dumped on a lot as the slackers and all this other stuff. I am now seeing the Xers who are the ones that raised, so it was always by the people that raised the kids that are going into the workforce that they're complaining about them. It's like, but it's your parenting that led to this culture. But I'm also seeing is that most the Xers are now doing that to Zs and whatever else is
yeah,
after that, the
yeah,
As or alphas. It's interesting to me that it's not just generations, it's stage of life.
yeah,
So, well, we had to do this when we were in our career. We had to put in our
mhm,
time. We had to do our things, and it's not ever stepping back and reflecting. Is that helpful? Or is there anything wrong with the way that other people are trying to do it now? Maybe if it's the same goal, there's multiple ways to get there.
yeah,
And coaching does provide that place to stop and pause, and
yeah.
to have that kind of, okay, my employees keep pushing for this. I don't understand it at all. Well, does it affect your bottom line in a negative way? Does it impact your customer's experience? Well, no, it
Yeah.
wouldn't. Okay, so why not try it and see
Yeah.
and tell them it's a beta test so that it's not like the new thing that's going to be
Yeah.
forever. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We had a policy, if you can call it that, at the company that I ran, that we could try anything for 30 days. Right.
Oh, I like that.
You can try anything for 30 days. Right. If it does justice to your colleagues and to your clients, you can try anything for 30 days. Right. It may work, it may not work, but let's try it. We don't know until we do. And I love that. Another thing that's fascinating, and I'd love to see you expound on this, is the exact mirror opposite of what we just talked about, of taking lessons that we learned early on and applying them later. What I think I hear you saying is that we're taking lessons we learned later and applying them earlier. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
Gen X, I'm looking at saying, hey, this is what I need to do to succeed now. That's what you should do as well, right?
Oh
I
my
think it's
goodness. Yeah.
a fascinating thing, because you ask people, what do you wish you knew now? What do you wish you knew then, what you know now, right? And those answers to me are almost always unsatisfactory. It's almost always an edited version of the lesson they're learning right now that's most applicable to the stage of life, work, career that they're in right now. And it's not
Wow.
necessarily the most essential thing back then.
What would be a good example of that you've seen?
Uh,
Because I'm resonating
so
with this.
so folks will kind of go through this progression of, you in your early in your career, you do whatever is given to you, and you just hustle and make it happen. And then those who are successful reach a point where they get to decide they can do whatever they want to do, right? The question that I have is, do you get to make that decision before you've done the hard work of earning it?
That was exactly what I was thinking as the example was just, yeah, the do your passion, just only do the things that you love. Well, no, life has a lot of stuff that just stinks. It's not
Yeah.
fun to do for a lot of us. It's not fun to do the books. But if you're a solopreneur, you're going to get in a lot of trouble if you don't do
Yeah.
the books. And sure, you can
Yeah.
get help with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's leaders too. There's sales. A lot of leaders don't like sales, which is mind boggling to me. I think there are parts of the process that aren't fun, but it's a quantifiable game. You can
Yeah.
see if you're putting
Yeah.
points on the board. But there is so many industries right now are going through another wave of basic things like it's the customers that are the problem. They should just come to my store. I shouldn't have to learn to communicate with them. They should just get how great we are and the services we have. And we always have to earn that. We always have to learn, and the conversations change. And so we have to have that flexibility of continuing to keep in touch with our prospects to learn how are they describing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. All right. So this is the moment I've been waiting for. Our conversation has led up to this point, and I'm so excited about it. But the question I love to ask folks, because we get to have these just brilliant guests like you on the show. And one of the things that I've found is each one of them has their secret, right? The one secret that they wish wasn't a secret, the thing that they wish everyone listening knew, but so few people know. And I'd love to know from you, what's that biggest secret that you wish everybody listening knew today?
Well, the one that's coming to mind right now, and that I've 20 years of working with CEOs and founders and entrepreneurs, is that there isn't a roadmap. We are all making it up as we go along, and that's okay. It's not a settle for. It's not a. What I see a lot of people have is that they don't share their uncertainty with people. They don't share their doubt because it's not safe to all the time. But they then interpret everybody else is not sharing it as though they don't have it. Like, they must be confident. Those leaders are strong and confident and forthright. And so when they go into something like strategic planning, they're looking for a MapQuest, to date myself, or a Google Maps, like with all the turns all the way mapped out for the next 3 to 5 years. And that doesn't exist. And we're coming out of a time where it was clear for the globe, like a global pandemic that shut stuff down wasn't something that most people had game plans for. And so I think knowing that you're making it up as you go along. I called my dad a few years back. We just took our youngest to college. So we're entering a different stage, but I called my dad and I said, you were just making it up as you went along, weren't you? There was silence, and then he just started busting up laughing. I thought he had a plan. I thought he knew what he was doing. I thought he had the answers. I didn't realize he was just making the best choices at the right moment. So for me, it would be knowing what your core values are and what your organization's core values are, because that allows you to pivot in the moment of, do you err on the side of your people, or do you err on the side of the customer? Or do you err on the side of taking a risk, or do you err on the side of playing it safe? Those things aren't necessarily good or bad. We may have internal things that we think are good or bad, but knowing them explicitly, it lets you know in the moment, when I'm faced with a decision, how am I going to lean? Which way am I going to bob and weave? And you'll be doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's where, so can I go one step further?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I think the doubt can be a surprising gift is that as we continue focusing on the externals, which is all good, the books, the tapes, the videos, the trainings, the conferences, the certifications, the degrees, they don't quite always fit. We can get parts of them, but none of them are 100%. Whoa, this is it. And it's in part so that doubt can lead us to think of, well, we're always deficient. We're always lacking. Why am I so bad? Why can I not even get this straight? But that doubt can also lead us to ask the question, what if I'm exactly the right person to lead this team? Or what if my organization is exactly the right voice in the sector? And then we start interpreting things differently. Like, I only get 10%, I glean 10% from these things, but I'm gleaning 10%.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. These little tweaks are making me so much more effective. Yeah. And you start having your confidence grow because you realize, oh, I am getting stuff out of it. May not be doing it hook, line, and sinker, but I am better for this. And our approach is uniquely different, and we know why. It's not just because, well, we don't do those things. We don't do sales because people should just come to us. That's crazy. But we know why we do sales, maybe differently, maybe more relationally than hustle culture or something.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think there's this idea that books must be like rule books. If Jim Collins wrote it, then it must be, or if Patrick Lynch, or if this, guy with this acronym after his name wrote it, it must be true.
Well, the endorsements on the back of it make it sound even amazing too, because wow, it changed their life, so it must be true.
And a couple of times I've met authors and you look, it's like, you don't even do this, like what's happening here? And I think there's a couple of things that are useful in this space, because I think it's one of the biggest problems that curious leaders face today is there's too much advice available.
Yeah.
but we don't have the right filters for how to recognize what is challenging because it's what I need to change and what's challenging because it's not right for me.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's where my coaching, I call it quadrant 3, which is the third stage in the growth model of where you start piecing together the stuff is
Yeah.
filtering. Why is this not right for me? But that's it. It's
Yeah.
the filters
Yeah.
to figure out, oh, management by walking around isn't for me because I'm an introvert and that actually
Yeah.
drains me. So I will do
Yeah.
other things. I want the same
Yeah.
goal of connection with my team, but there are going to be other ways I will do it than my
Yeah.
predecessor. Or I'm a verbal expressive, and that's not necessarily beneficial for the team because they don't know when I've come to a decision.
Yeah.
So maybe I should find somebody else I can verbally
Yeah.
express with so
Yeah.
that I can save my team all the chaos of all my ideas and thinking that
Yes.
they have to execute on all of them. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think the two big filters are time, right? Stage of your career, stage of your life, stage of your business. I think that's the first one. Is this written for folks that are in the stage that you're in or trying to get to? And the second big one is the one that you just drew out, which is this written for the people who are like you, right? Is this written for your leadership style, for your personality style? Because if it's written for a hard charging bulldog extrovert and you're a raging, introvert, you can do that stuff, but you're going to end the day exhausted.
Yes.
And will it work? Your guess is as good as mine. Now, if you're an extrovert and that like just lights your fire and you can go and it's just like you fit, then it's wonderful. And so it's why one person can read a book and it'll be brilliant for them. Next person can read a book and it can be crushing. Is because we don't have the right filters in place.
Well, and so because of that awareness with Surprise and Gifted Out, I was able to actually, I paid or offered to pay a dozen people from different lived experiences, different backgrounds, different orientations to review the book to see if it were as open to as diverse audience as I felt. And there was some really good feedback on that. Mostly it was the pop culture references that were just limiting because of who I am and when I grew up. But it was really good to have that kind of those my filter. I was aware of my filter, and so the first chapter is something on that. But to have the input of others to come around so that it could help unhinder that from other people.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a word, but
it is now. It's in the official canon.
One of my great one of my advisors told me early on, eat the chicken, spit out the bones.
Yeah.
With just about anything, there's some chicken in there. And if you're vegan, you come up with a better analogy. Sorry about that, about the chicken. But eat the chicken, spit out the bones has been something that's been really helpful for me because I don't get upset that there are bones. It's just bones. Like it's not a failing. A more, oh no, my dinner has bones in it.
Yes.
It's just what they are. So I love the non-judgmental feeling of that and the freedom of, okay, that wasn't for me.
I'm totally stuck on trying to make some edamame allegory work for
the first time I met edamame or had it, I didn't know what it was. So I was eating out of this bowl and it didn't taste that good. It was kind of fuzzy and all. And it was the person next to me's the covering of it when she had discarded it in the bowl. It was like, oh great.
That's funny. That's funny.
I learned quickly what not to do.
Yes. All right. So a final question that I have for you here, and then we'll talk about how folks can get your book and find out more about what you do. But what I'd like for you to do is go and take your coach hat off for a moment and kind of jump into the arena with us, put your CEO hat on, and talk to us a little bit more about how you're growing your business and yourself as a leader.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's an interesting time that you're asking me because I feel like my business is a Hogwarts staircase that just turned to a new balcony and is anchored there. And this is total stage of life, but after 20 years of coaching and speaking around the world and writing books, I'll keep doing that. But the coach certification that I've got going is, it is, as you know, so rewarding to be able to pour yourself into other people that are making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
There's the one-on-one coaching that I still love, but having the leadership coach certification where people are coming either at the leading a career, and they just don't know how to do coaching skills, like the coaching skills and the questions that are needed instead of just giving answers is because most of us don't have the same leadership development that may have existed in a prior time. So the internal people, but also the external people that are trying to either add coaching as a revenue stream to their consulting or to become coaches. it's so exciting to see people just take off, and to see consultants that were like, oh, I want to be better with my team. Then realize, wait, I could also get paid to do this myself. So I think where I am seeing my business go is a new way of pouring into other people. And I can see it in stages in a way that I haven't been able to see it most of the time. It's just kind of just try to get the next thing done. But right now I feel like I can see the next decade of growth ahead of me, and it's pretty exciting.
That's fantastic. Excellent. So give us in 30, 60 seconds, the elevator pitch for your book. I'd love for people to know a little bit about that, and then tell us where we can find it.
Okay. Surprising Gift of Doubt. I firmly believe that while most of our society is gearing us to ask the question of what's missing in us, the doubt can build up and push us into the why are we the right person for this position? Why might we be the perfect person? So your doubt can mean you're on the verge of greatness. It's available wherever good books are sold. Even fine books are sold, and Amazon being the big gorilla in the marketplace. But I would recommend going to an independent bookseller if you can find that, or your library. I'm trying to make it really accessible there too.
That's great.
And the Audible is out as well. My youngest got to do the about the author part, so we have voice talent from two Pitmans in the family.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Your doubt means you're on the verge. Would you say verge of excellence or verge of breakthrough?
Verge of greatness.
Verge of greatness. I love that. Your doubt is an indication you're on the verge of greatness. Well, Marc, thank you so much for being here. I deeply appreciate you spending your time with us. I know it was massively informative and inspirational for me, and I think it was for our audience as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. This has been great.
Yeah, awesome. And for everyone who is listening, your time and attention mean the absolute world to us. It's the biggest honor you could give. So thank you so much for being here with us, for lending your ear or watching with us online. We're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to see you next time. Take care.